Greetings from Yerevan, Armenia. It's October 29th. It's around 10 in the morning. I have three stories I want to share with you, and these are miraculous stories of how God has been saving soldiers and how he is showing up in the midst of battle. I get stories every single day from my pastor friends where their congregants are fighting on the front line to defend their land against the Islamic terrorists that have been hired from Syria, from the Turkish government and from the Azeri government that is trying to invade the free and sovereign lands of the Republic of Artsakh and Armenia. And they've been bombing and shelling civilians in Stepanakert, that's the capital city of Artsakh, and they actually just hit a maternity ward, a hospital. They targeted a hospital, and they've been targeting civilians really since the day one of the war. And this is an unjust war. This is an attempt at a second genocide by the Turkish and Turkic peoples, I would say, specifically orchestrated by Tayyip Erdogan and Ilham Aliyev. And everything that they're saying in the news and the Azeri and Turkish news is lies. But let me tell you some good stories. The first one, there was a unit of around 30 men or so, and they were being bombed and shelled by the Azeri forces. And a bomb exploded, many of the men died. And there was these three men that were congregants of one of the churches here that I'm connected with. And what happened next was really interesting. They said, as they were being shelled, these three men said, they cried out, "Jesus, help us, Jesus, save us." And they said, all of a sudden, they said they felt like they were being lifted up and they were running for shelter. But they said that they've never felt anything like this in their life. They were being lifted up and they were like leaping extraordinary distances that they couldn't normally do on their own. And as that happened, they got out in a safe distance, and they heard the noise again of a missile coming right towards them. And then they all of a sudden they heard they felt this push, this hand that pushed them right down in the hole. And then there was nobody else with them. There was only three men, and they were pushed into the hole. After that, this explosion happened right next to them, and dirt covered up that hole. So right after that, this is what happened. So they were covered up in this hole. They were pushed down in this hole. And all of a sudden they began to hear Azeri language. It's a Turkic language. And the Azeris had taken over that area. And for 3 days, they didn't make a sound. They stayed in the hole. They stayed quiet. They heard all the Azeri forces around them talking and planning and all those things. And they knew that if they had surrendered, they would have been killed, skinned alive, beheaded, because that's how they've been treating the prisoners of war on the Azerbaijani side. If you want to compare to the Armenian side, they've been treating them like human beings and taking care of them. Well, anyway, 3 days passed, and all of a sudden, they heard all of the Azeris fleeing. They had to flee the area, and then they began to hear Armenian voices. Well, by this time, they were very, very tired, but they prayed, "God, help us to have strength." And one of them lifted their hands out of the hole and waved their hand, and they heard the Armenian soldiers say, "Oh, look, there's somebody alive over there. Let's see who it is," and they were saved. So that's one story that I'm going to share. I have at least one more great story, and I'll share one more.